Good night, Belizeans at home and abroad. This is the Belizean Affairs Show number 419. 419. My name is Leonard Brackett. I will be your temporary chairman uh, tonight being Monday. And running a little late right now, a few minutes late, so I'll just move forward with the normal process that we do in terms of our presentation of this particular platform. And I'll just bow my head and say a short prayer. Divine, loving Father, thou who art the creator of heaven and earth and all that in them are, into thy hands we commend ourselves, asking that thou would continue to have mercy upon us, that thou would continue to guide and protect and bless us, grant us wisdom, knowledge, understanding, endurance, perseverance, and we pray, loving Father, that thou would give us a bit of fortitude to speak truth to power, if or when need be. We also pray that thou must continue to bless our family members, each and every one of them, as if they were being mentioned by name and number, the nice of our hearts, our desires, even our most secret thoughts, loving Father. Please let the words of our mouth and the meditation of our mind and the contriteness of our hearts be acceptable before thy divine presence, now and always. We pray that thou must bless our country of Belize, its people and leadership, and that thou would bless this country of the United States, its people and leadership as well, and that thou would bless the rest of humanity, especially those people who are in harm's way, many of whom are losing their lives and limbs, sometimes for no justifiable reason or any fault of their own. We pray that thou mayest continue to abide with us. Please bless us. Whatever we have to say tonight, may it accrue to some positive public benefit to our people of Belize and at home and abroad. We ask this much in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you very much for allowing us to partake in that part of our presentation. And I'll just go ahead and read a short part of the scriptures here. Let's see what you want to read tonight. I'll go ahead and read from what is it? The book of Saint John, and I'm going to be reading from the, let's see, 20th chapter 20, and starting at, let me see what, let's start at verse 23, and it reads as follows: Whomsoever sins ye remit, they are remitted unto them, and whosoever sins you retain, they are retained. But Thomas, one of the 12 disciples, uh, I'm sorry, it says one of the 12 called Didymus was not with them when Jesus came. And I proceed to read verse 25. It says, The other disciples therefore said unto him, that is Thomas, We have seen the Lord. But he said unto them, Except I shall see in his hands, in his handprints of the nails, and put my finger into the nails, and thrust my hand into his side, I will not believe. And that is relating to part of the scripture where it gives a Christ having been nailed to the cross and being thrust in the side by a Roman spear, and Jesus had appeared unto some of his disciples, and Thomas, the doubting Thomas, was not around at the time. So when they gave him the news, he said he had doubts as to whether or not they were telling him the truth, or whether or not Jesus had already been resurrected indeed, and whether or not he would be able to witness for himself, seeing Jesus in person, put his fingers in the holes that the nail had made while they were nailing him to the cross, as well as putting his hand into Jesus' side where the spear had been pushed into his rib. And that would have been the way that he, doubting Thomas, would have been able to confirm whether or not Jesus indeed had resurrected. Uh, in life, we have a lot of people who doubt various things. I mean, we're born not knowing what we need to learn, and we learn what we learn as we grow up. So not too long ago, I heard one kid asking the other kid if uh, if well, not if, but it was telling the other kid that there's no God because they can't see God. So one of the other kids said to that first individual, he said, well, we can't see God, but do you have a brain? Then the next person responded, he said, yes. He said, can you see can you touch your brain? He said, no. So well, then how do you believe that you have a brain? When in fact you don't see your brain, you can't touch your brain, and it's the same comparable idea that will convey to each other. That is that you can't see God and you can't touch God the way they were trying to interpret the parable, and therefore the end of that discussion was that maybe we'll not be able to see our own brain or touch our own brain, but because of our own sense of awareness and our faith, we believe that what we have been taught while growing up is true. That is that we do have a brain. It's all a matter of faith. Other than the fact that, well, unless you go and take it out yourself and then you'll be able to have that experience of not having a brain, which is the same what you did by then. Anyhow, get out of that and start bantering around a little. Tonight's program, I see our chairman in the background. I guess I sent him the link a little late, so I'll take the blame for him not probably being able to load up what he wanted to load up for his program for tonight. And since I see him in the background, I'll just take a couple of more, maybe a couple of minutes, and speak to you, the Belizean people at home and abroad, and give the chairman a fair opportunity of being able to load up as much of the information as he is able to. He can bring himself on, so I don't have to be attentive to that. He'll come on when he's ready, and therefore I'll just turn the program over to him. But in the meantime, I want to say that in Belize we're having far too much accents for the size of our country. And on this particular platform, we make it a regular peeve to be complaining about it and asking. Of course, we don't have the mass population reach as some other media house would have, or other people who present their program would have. And therefore, with our limited reach, we may not be reaching enough people to make a difference in regards to sensitizing people to the reality that we do need to be a bit more cautious when we're driving on the roads, on the streets, in the alleys, and wherever it's not. We do need to be careful when we're walking out in public, on the streets, on the roads, those people who live up the road, to come out to the side of the road to catch their transportation. People who have to be riding bicycles, going home late at night on bicycles with dark clothes, and then the drivers are sometimes impaired. They're either drinking or taking some kind of other drugs or whatever, or maybe their sight is not adequate, or maybe they're just half asleep because maybe they're not getting enough rest. There are many reasons why you have accidents, including because we're dealing with mechanic bits and pieces. I mean, the car has so many different parts, any of which can fail at any given time, including our brakes. Because some of us think that, okay, we can drive as crazy as we want, and when we're about to get into an accident, we can just slam on our brakes, as tight as possible, and we'll avoid hitting somebody or maybe killing ourselves. It doesn't always work out like that. And it's unfortunate that, well, I'm saying all of what I'm saying right now, but I need to make a confession too. That is that I don't drive as often as I used to drive, but when I used to drive regularly, I used to do the very same thing I'm describing right now that other people should try and not do. That is to drive crazy, act like you have 9 lives like a cat. You know, I needed then to be taking the same advice that I'm giving out now to other people. And back then, I wasn't taking that same advice to myself. I mean, I'm confessing that as a truth because, I used to drive crazy. I remember the last time I drove from the United States, San Francisco, all the way to Belize and back. I got to Belize, I think it was in 35 hours. And when I was coming back, I wanted to take off a few minutes off of that record. So I came back in 34 point something hours. And after that, I said I'll never, ever do that again. Because on various occasions, I could have been, taken out of here because of what was going on during those trips. Before then, I used to drive just the same reckless way. I used to just, floor it. And I don't know, maybe it's good for my soul right now that I'm still alive and I'm able to confess to the general public, some of my shortcomings. And I'm one of those who like to point out other people's shortcomings and ask that, they make amends. So I don't know if maybe I'm trying to make amends now after the fact, of course, because I survived it by just speaking to those matters. Since I'm here advocating that people should be a bit more careful, more cautious, and try to avoid the accidents. Our country has less than 500,000 people in there. And our roads are not properly built. And they keep breaking up or you keep having potholes. Plus, we don't have enough roads for the amount of vehicles. And some people are speeding up. They want to get from Belize to Belmopan and probably they're running late. Or they want to leave from Belmopan and get to Belize because, for whatever reason. Or to Coruscant or wherever. People are just driving too fast. Especially for the kind of roads we have and the conditions of some of the roads. Like I said, there are some roads. I'm sorry, I need to drink something. Got something natural. And there are some roads that when it's raining, they're very slick. Especially around that curve there at, I think it's mile 29, somewhere between mile 28 and mile 31. And there's always accidents happening there. But that's on the highway or that's on the main road, right? When people are driving crazy and try to go around curves, not seeing other vehicles coming around the other side of the curve where you have a couple of double S curves on that same piece of road. And then sometimes they're doing that in inclement weather, in rainy weather. And that piece of road was mostly built with limestone, which means that when it gets wet and you brakes, you're still gonna keep sliding. I still see our chairman in the background. Gonna take another minute or so and just continue ranting on this particular peeve of nine, right? When accidents occur, as a matter of fact, I'll say this: accidents don't ask permission to happen. Okay, they happen, and if you provide for them, they will happen more often. And when the accident happens, making excuses or trying to say, "Well, I'm sorry that I'm involved in the accident and whatever part I played to cause the accident, I'm sorry about it." You should be sorry before you cause the accident, because saying sorry don't make the accident be. I mean, not having happened, right? You can't reverse it. Think about the plausibility of you not getting home, or that you get home maybe in a casket, or that you send other people to their graves, or maybe at their home in a casket, or maybe uh, invalid, you know, are mangled up. And then somebody else, if that person is the breadwinner, let's say they're coming from Belmopan, going to Belize or to wherever, coming from their work, and there's this massive accident that people end up getting hurt. That breadwinner is not available then to provide for his family. That breadwinner could be somebody else, or it could be you yourself. What I'm trying to say is, Belizeans, please display a heart and some consideration for each other in safety. Again, the chairman is with us tonight, and so in the interest of timeliness here, I'll just yield to the chairman for him to do his program as per his personal choice. Good night, Mr. Chairman. I yield, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Brackett. I
Oh,
want to say
I didn't have on my headpiece either. I was just ranting on.
again, thank you, Mr. Brackett. I want to say good night to people at home and abroad,
You're welcome, sir.
and I want to thank you for tuning in to this, our 300 or 419th episode of Belizean Affairs. I want to also say good night to you, Mr. Morrison. Welcome to this, our 419th episode of Belizean Affairs.
Good night, Mr. Morrison.
Good evening. Thank you, gentlemen.
Gentlemen, tonight's show will be an open one. And I first want to start with an incident that happened with a young lady who came to visit the village and was discriminated upon. I know a lot of us in Belize have went through discrimination, and even though one may not hear or see it happening, it still exists as of today, and in many cases we can point them out to show that it is still happening.
Hmm.
Let me go to the state.
My thing is there was always going to be, hate or people who have negative things to say about you. And that's also something that I always want to teach the young girls is that despite what life throws at you, you have to keep going. You always have to see the positive side of things and the bright side of things and understand that sometimes people project and that's okay. And that's not something that you have to put on yourself, but instead give love back. I'm a Christian, so I do believe in giving grace to people. But again, the most important is to give love back and, life continues regardless.
How much of a bad impression has this left on you about Belize, if any at all?
Not at all. Not at all. Like I said, I love Belize. I've had an amazing welcome. The people here are so nice. So you can't base an experience on one person or on one bad thing that happened. So I'm still very happy to be here and I'm still very excited.
Could you
Mr.
explain what happened?
Morrison,
I'm not familiar with the incident.
what happened, Mr. Morrison? This young lady who took part in the Miss Universe pageant came to visit Belize and had conversation with students, etc. But while she came a tour operator disrespected her in the sense as how President Trump had spoken about the Obamas in that same terminology about monkeys. So I wanted to start the show with this because even outside of this young lady visit to Belize, racism has always played a part in our everyday life in Belize, and not only in Belize, but in worldwide countries. And
Was
I want to
was
point
this
it out.
was this was this tour operator a Belizean, a
Yes,
native
he was.
Belizean, a native Belizean?
Yes, he was. And he actually got up and apologized. And he said he was intoxicated and he don't see the reason why he should lose his 11 years of service over a joke comment. Now, I want to say there's no openness for no kind of slur comments or anything that will discriminate against an individual. So, with that said, Mr. Morrison, I want to hear your openness on that.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. You know, we were just talking about discrimination on my last show, and it is clear that somehow the what we are left with because of colonialism and because of all the racism and stuff that espoused and propagated throughout the society. We were talking about discrimination last time on my other show about Garifuna people that were discriminated upon heavily in Belize. And this was done both by the Creole and at that time the Latinized people that were in Belize. I'm talking way back in the early days. And so it is not new that we have walked this path. And I don't know the full incident of what happened with the young lady. I didn't get to hear about it until now. Well, I heard some inklings of it earlier, of something happening, but I didn't pay too much attention to it. But you know, discrimination and the reaction of people is usually based on ignorance. It's usually based on a degree of superiority or on a sense of self hate. Those are the two characterizations. Or people that are just rude and like to make jokes at other people's expense. Sometimes it's not necessarily to be discriminatory, but to be rude and to be get a laugh or a joke at another person's expense. So those are the characters that I see, and in any case, it is hateful and it is not right, and we should do everything in the public space to discourage it, to hold people that behave in such manner accountable, and to make sure that in terms of our laws and in terms of our societal structure that we don't tolerate discrimination. So that's how I see it, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Morrison. Mr. Brackett, I go to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Morrison, for such a lucid contribution, sir. And thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the privilege to participate on your program tonight, especially as regards to this matter. Normally, I would have a lot to say about this particular matter because I've had to deal with it substantively. But in the interest of the cogency of our program tonight, I'll try and limit my, statements. In the first place, as Mr. Morrison had mentioned, racism used to happen in our country from way back in the slavery days, long before colonial days. Okay? And it continued during the colonial days. And during the colonial days, we had racism being propagated between the Belizean black Creoles and the Garifuna people in Stan Creek and PG, to the point where the government under the light-skinned people, then we call them, because they never only come from England, they come from all over the world. But the light-skinned people, they used to hobnob among themselves and, discriminate against the black Creoles them. But they instigate or inspired into the black Creole, or imbued in the black Creole, a sense of foreboding and keeping a distance away from the Garifuna, because the light-skinned people, they never want the black Creoles them and the Garifuna them to have any kind of coalition or any joining up together and becoming any real strength. Already they were the majority of the people in the colony, so they wanted to make sure that they have them divide and conquer. But what we should be talking about currently is something a little bit different. Yes, we do have the persistence of where the Garifuna and the Creole saw between themselves that difference. But right now, what's happening in Belize is we're having a mass amount of Central American people coming to Belize, and especially because the Guatemalans, they have a hostile attitude towards Belizeans per se. I live in Guatemala 7 years, so I know what the devils I'm talking about. So I don't want nobody call me and tell me no stupidness, but I talk down or talk bad about the Guatemalans them. I live in El Salvador as well. I've been around, basically. So I know what I'm talking about. I'm not going to just talk out of a sense of, just gratuitousness. I'm speaking to this matter, as I said, because I have a lot to say about it. And it's not fair, it's not right. The problem we have in Belize right now is that it's not because of the Honduranians. It's mostly because of the Salvadorians and the Guatemalans. The Salvadorians, because I was in El Salvador in 1962 when I was the only black person in the whole country. They had just chased out all the black people out of the country because they claimed that some black man had raped one of the ministers, the family member. Okay, so they had just. I went there not knowing that. I went there with some other friends. They are nice people, but they're very prejudiced among their own Latin people. They have a problem with the Nicaraguans. They have a problem with the Hondurans. They have a problem with the Guatemalans. Okay? I'm talking about the Salvadorians right now, specifically. But let me get off the Salvadorians then and point to where our real Belizean problem lies. That is that in our constitution, it says we should not be giving Guatemalans any kind of legal status in our country, such as to make them become citizens eventually. And our government persists in violating the very constitution and promote these people and support these people and give them more assistance and governmental. The government cater to the Guatemalans them more than they cater to the born Belizeans them. And that is a major problem. And when some of the, I'm not saying all the Guatemalans, by the way, okay, please don't misinterpret what I'm saying or misunderstand what I'm trying to convey. Even though I may not be conveying it with the correct set of words, I'm making an effort and attempting to say what I'm trying to say and hopefully say it the right way. I'm saying there are some Guatemalans that come to Belize, and when they are in Belize, they feel like they can misbehave, carry on, because at the end of the day, they claim and have been taught from cradle to grave that Belize belongs to Guatemala, and therefore they can come to Belize and discriminate against the black people them in Belize, whether Creole or Garifuna, and even discriminate against some of the very mestizo people them in Belize. Okay, in fact, they come there and they shop up themselves. They have they take their liquor and they do the same thing they do when they're in Guatemala proper, because in Guatemala they're always having problems among themselves. And we in Belize are not used to that level of violence, you know. And then when it comes with the discrimination thing attached to it, and our very government officials cater more to those people than to us, and they discriminate and tell us in our own face that we, the black Creoles, them are a minority, and therefore we shouldn't be bothered or care about nothing that has to do with the government or how the government operate or how any other people benefit from the government services that we are being denied of. We have a major problem, and we're not talking enough about it. We're not trying to solve it. We're trying to keep it in the background and hope that it just die a natural death or go away. And it's not going away. It's becoming more prevalent, is my concern. And Mr. Chairman, like I say, I have a lot that I would like to say about it, but I have to do justice in terms of our committee and the timing of your program. So I'll just cease and desist on that particular subject for right now. I yield back, sir.
Gentlemen, I open with that topic because I wanted to show how discrimination is alive and living well in Belize, and we seldom speak about it.
Mr.
Let
Chairman,
me,
Mr. Chairman, could you permit me a quick thought before I forget it? We are not only having problems with the black Creoles or the black people in Belize among themselves or among the other Latin people in. We're having a major problem with some of our own black Creoles in Belize discriminating against the black tourists that come from America and go to Belize thinking that they're going to go to a place where other black people are and they're going to have a fine time. And I've heard it too often that these people are discriminated against all because they're black, and they are being discriminated against by some of the own black Creole officers, and mostly so by the Spanish officers them. Okay? Like I said, there's a lot I want to say, but I can't. I have to yield back, sir. I yield back. Thank you very much.
thank you.
You just drive me crazy, man.
I will speak on it, but I want to go to the video. Mr. Morrison, you will see what was said from the video.
There was always going to be, hate or people who have negative things to say about you. And that's also something that I always want to teach the young girls is that despite what life throws at you, you have to keep going. You always have to see the positive side of things and the bright side of things and understand that sometimes people project, and that's okay. And that's not something that you have.
You see what was marked on the video, Mr. Morrison? Your mic is mute, sir.
I heard what was said, what she said, but I don't see what.
Let me play it for you. I will read it to you.
There was always going to be, hate or people who have negative things to say about you. And that's also something that I always want to teach the young girls is that just.
First May.
I heard that. I heard that. I didn't know. I didn't hear what was said about her that
That was a discriminative fact. No, I want to say this because while you gentlemen were speaking about discrimination, cultural discrimination, I want to say tonight that it goes beyond that. We live it in our everyday life. Every time we watch broadcasting coming from the National Assembly, from highest ranking government officials, we live it. When we see the Prime Minister can get on the news and speak about other people, when the business senator can do it, as in the case of Mr. Budna, when you have ministers that can spit in other people's face and nothing is being done, when you have doctors who can even go as far as slapping Mr. Budna and nothing is being done about it. This is racism at the highest level. And we need to call it out because it goes beyond that. When you have government hiring cronies and not hiring the people that is most qualified, that is racism. When you have the government giving out these starter homes to certain individuals that goes along politically with their party, that is racism. It is specifically saying you have a government only for the blue party, when a government should be for the people of Belize. And this is why when Honorable Lee Markton pointed this out, one minister had got so heated. Mr. Morrison, I want to go back to you based on the point that I just said. Mr. Morrison, your mic
Yes,
is
yes,
muted.
yes, yes. Thank you again, Mr. Brackett. As I said, racism is deeply entrenched in our country, and it is. I heard the Prime Minister's remarks about Mr. Budna when he was trying to defame him even more than, I don't know if he was any defaming him, but when he was calling him some names, and probably some of it for in that instance is warranted, but he in all those cases he still deserves his human rights and his citizenship rights, that and his constitutional rights. So yeah, we have seen the excess of it, and I think probably the prime minister was ill advised in how he voiced some of his resentment towards Mr. Budna. I don't know that I call that specifically racism. There are lots of things that could be indignant and disrespectful and untoward and unbecoming, and it may not necessarily be racism. So I don't know that that in itself was racism or was generated from that particular characterized behavior or, or human trait. So I'm going to pass on that one in terms of how to categorize that. But I know that racism exists in our country. Classism exists, racism exists, and as Mr. Brackett says, sometimes it's practiced even, but then it's not racism. It's more classism when it's practiced amongst the black people against other black people and such. We see a lot of it in terms of our neighbor and guest from Haiti that comes to our country and a sort of undue behavior and lumping them all into a certain category. And I always think that the entire Caribbean, Latin America, and particularly black people everywhere should always have a place reserved for Haiti in their heart because of their effort and the conditions in which their country exists, just because they had sought to be the first country to fight off and throw off the yoke of slavery, and they have been completely by the churches, by the governments of the Western Hemisphere, um, it's been put in degraded position. When in fact most of their condition is caused by current, not only by past um, activities of racists and racist states, but by current policies that seems to degrade them and put them only in a position of exploitation and promotes leadership and governance in those countries that seeks to always trying to exploit the resources and disenfranchise the citizens and serve the interests of the West. So that is a long-standing issue. And I yield back to you with those comments.
Thank you, Mr. Morrison. I would like to ask a simple question to you, sir. What is the difference between racism and discrimination?
Well, I think racism for me is, did someone act out of a malice of being racially believing that their race is entitled to something versus you as a person of a different race. And it could go against all the colors, although I believe generally that in terms of racism, it's only people that have power that could exercise that power are capable of acting and defining it in terms of racism. I don't believe that when a black person acts a certain way against a white person, you can definitely necessarily call it racism, because racism to me is with the exercise of that power. If they had, if you're in a black majority country and you're discriminating against a white person or a person of another race, then that might be able to consider it in those terms. But if you're in a white majority country or a Hispanic majority country, then I can't see that being called, because to me racism, it has that political power, has that mechanism of state that allows it to thrive and to cause the harm to the individual.
Would you agree with me, Mr. Morrison, that racism is the same as discrimination?
But I didn't hear what you said there.
Would you agree with me that racism is the same as discrimination?
No, 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 no. You could discriminate against someone and the cause not being racism. You could discriminate against someone because of family ties within your own clan. And so I don't necessarily put them as the same. Racism, I think, is, as I said, is the difference between the power structure and a majority set of people, or that is acting in defiance of law. Well, not always the law. Sometimes the law is racist, but in defiance of individual rights. That's how I describe it.
Thank you, Mr. Morrison. I will come back to it to point a point out to you, but first let me go to Mr. Brackett.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Morrison. But I would like to explain something that I've heard you said, Mr. Morrison, that a lot of other people, intellectual-minded people, have attempted to verbalize just about the same way you verbalize it. I would like to express a different perspective. First of all, discrimination and racism are not one and the same. While you can discriminate against somebody or some group or individuals on the basis of their race, you can also discriminate against them on the basis of economics, on the basis of societal status. You can even discriminate against somebody of your own same race in terms of the action of discrimination or the issue of discrimination. Whereas, for example, differently, when you talk about racism itself, you're making reference to genetics. That is to say, people that have different genes and that have different levels of melatonin in their system, and whose mind is more towards assimilating with others of his own external uh, color features and group and behavior patterns. It has a little bit more to do with your genetics and how you live and carry on your life or lifestyle. That people tend to gravitate in terms of discriminating against one or the other. Your lifestyle being a gay, for example, somebody of your own same race may discriminate against you just because you don't carry the same lifestyle as they do. Somebody, let's say, for example, a Garifuna person, may discriminate against their own Garifuna brothers and sisters in regards to particular material issues that they are probably contending with each other for or about. One that has the power, as you're indicating earlier, Mr. Morrison, will exercise that power not necessarily because of race, but because of personal agendas, greed, or materialism. And they will then exercise those powers to put themselves in a more favorable position or outcome contrary to their own like racial brothers and sisters, people who belong to the same group, or who may have the same texture of skin, or appear the same. In fact, you have discrimination against black people who discriminate against other black people. For example, here in America, the American blacks who would have just about the same variations of shades of black in them as some other people that come from Central America, Haiti, or Africa, or wherever. And they'll discriminate against them because they're not Americans. They're not born from the American slave trade. So they don't, in my instance, I've had people tell me, I am not black. And I laugh at them because I'm somebody who studied about genetics and anthropology and I'm a philosopher when it comes to the issues of human relations and human behavior. So I turn around and I make joke out of what they say, because first of all I ask them, what color am I then compared to what color you are? And while some black people have lighter skin than some other black people, or mestizo have lighter skin than some other mestizo, Chinese have different grades of skin colors, all the different nations of the earth and groups of people in the earth have variations among themselves. And in a lot of instances, they discriminate against each other, not because of the difference in color. Some of them discriminate because, like I said earlier, their economic station in life, their political affiliations, religious affiliation, a lot of different things. But the main thing we got to remember, and I'm trying to bring to your attention, Mr. Morrison, because I heard you say earlier just now, and I've heard a lot of people espouse that idea. Racism is about power play, and the person that have the power is the only person that is in a position to be racial. That is not necessarily true. If you study anthropology, or you study human migration or human behavior, or you study linguistics, or languages, or cultures, when you get into all these different variables, you will find out that definition that I heard you mention just now, and that I've heard innumerable amount of people mention. Why? Because they listen to each other say it, and they propagate the same thing that they hear from each other. There's a need for us to get into the definition of these terms when we use them, because they carry different weights. But I'll yield back for right now, because I don't want to be, there's more I'd like to say, but I'll just yield back. I'll yield back.
I heard what you said, Mr. Brackett, and I do stand and I do believe that racism is a power exercise. Without the ability to exercise those power, it is not racism. It is then just sort of bad behavior. How could the question I'll ask? How could a poor black person be racist against
A rich white person
that has the ability to exercise the control and power? it's just not possible. It's not possible. He
Yeah,
can be
Mr.
he can
Morrison.
be nasty. He could be discriminatory, but really he cannot be racist in my opinion and in my understanding of the term racism, because racism is strictly power inflicted. Um,
That is the point that I was
well,
saying is not true, sir. It's been
well,
conveyed as
that's
such, but
your
it is not
opinion,
true.
sir. That's your opinion, and
Yes,
that's good.
Mr. Morrison, if I may say this, gentlemen, I want to say this point blank. All racism is discrimination, but not all discrimination is racism. And I will give you an example. You, and I will use it for an example, a white individual or a Spanish individual goes for a job. So let's say you and a white person goes for a job. And you know what happened? They picked the white person for the job and they did not pick you based on your color.
The no one chin
Some
and front of
people
it
will say that is discrimination when in fact
on the basis of race.
racism and discrimination ties into one another. That is being racist based on your color. Okay? But gentlemen, I want to move on because I want to show you how it works in Belize. A prime example, and I will go to the tape and I will say something, and I want you gentlemen to elaborate on it. Let's go to the tape.
February 5th, here in Houston, with the Minister of Immigration, Honorable Karim Abusa. Karim, could you tell us what you're doing this morning in Houston?
4 p.m. As you know, this is an incredibly special treat to have you with us for the diaspora Belizeans to have this experience. As you know, our administration has been so supportive for diaspora, and today we're delivering approximately 230 passports and 70 nationality certificates. So an incredibly happy moment for a lot of the Belizeans here in Houston.
I'm quite impressed also when I look at the staff, since when we came in last night, I saw they disappeared. I thought they went out.
They were
Right,
working.
they were working
Until
So
12
we have
last
also
night.
big them up. But now what next? Because I know a lot of people are saying, so when are you going to go to Chicago?
Chicago,
Florida. So how are you going to get that done?
The demand is high, PM. But I have to say, this staff is so amazing. Like you rightly said, they've been here last time in February. We had about 14 of them with the director, Miss Dana Blaze. You have to shout out Dana.
So Dana, the suit, showing. That is Dana. The name. This
And they are really the drivers and the movers behind this movement for us to take the services in very important service across the U.S. and probably to other parts of other countries as well, because it's such a valuable experience for all Belizeans. And so we're very grateful, PM, to you and our government.
Well, I was going to say, certainly thanks to the government, and I think it's just a part of Flat Belize. We're continue to reach out to our people, because all the work that we do, it is for them. So congratulations to you and the team, and keep up the great work.
Thanks, Prime Minister. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Gentlemen and people at home and abroad, I want to say this. You heard what the Prime Minister had to say? It's under Plan Believe. How can you do this, publicize it, and saying it's for all Belizeans when you are constitutionally violating these Belizean rights to come to Belize, to take part in election under the Seventh Amendment, but you only use them when you want to publicize for your own personal agenda. Mr. Morrison, I go to you. Exactly what I was speaking about.
Yeah, thank you very much. the concern remains very critical that the diaspora Belizeans are not able to participate in elected office. They are not able to run for the National Assembly, the National Parliament. And that becomes an issue because many people, they have spent so many years here in the United States or Canada or wherever they are, and they have contributed to this society here where they live for a great time. And then they also have the love in their heart for Belize and they would like to serve. And many of them are not just Johnny come lately. They are people that have dedicated great deal of resources. They own property in Belize and they have family in Belize and they have participated actively in the process of our governance, often not in elected office, of course, but in many ways they have had fundraisers that support programs in Belize. They have contributed to the development of the country through remittances, and they have supported their families, as I said. So they are very active in the process, and when they are denied the right to participate in elected office, we can only see that as a slap in the face. Now,
Discrimination.
I discrimination, yes. I don't have a problem. This is my personal opinion. I don't have a problem that they are not able to vote in elections in Belize or be able to do absentee vote and participate in electing a representative for a particular constituency. And the reason I say that is because I believe if you're electing someone, you should be able to feel the squeeze of those policies. And so I believe that if you choose to if you meet the constitutional requirement and you choose to go home and participate in the election when they're called at that time, that is lawful and that is your right. But I don't believe that they should be able to vote in elections that then sends individuals to the National Assembly when they're not living in Belize and just participating. I know many countries have that feature. The United States for sure has it, but for Belize, and we are noticing it even in the United States, that people are getting elected by very small turn of the votes, and in Belize it could be devastating. In the United States, it could affect individual seats, but it's not going to affect the total outcome most of the time of how the Congress is supported and who's the majority and who's the minority in our Congress in the United States. But in Belize, it could easily make that difference if people vote a certain way and they're not able to be part of the consequences, benefit or consequences of those decisions they make. So for that reason, I support that we be given the right to vote within the country by going there, that we be given the right to stand for elected offices from the diaspora without giving up your citizenship of wherever you are, and be respected for those actions. That's how I see it, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Morrison, thanks for your input, but isn't that a constitutional right? What does the Constitution say about birthright citizens when it comes to voting? I go to you, Mr. Brackett.
Thank you very much, sir.
I will
The,
come back to
constitu-
you, Mr. Morrison,
the
for that.
constitution, the constitution of Belize is very precise, succinct, and very forthcoming in regards to who a Belizean is and what right Belizeans should have as compared to how these knuckleheads are trying to pretend to make it be that only they can determine who a Belizean is. It is not for the government to determine who a Belizean is, other than if the person was not born in Belize. Then the government has that authority vested in it, according to the Constitution, to make rules, regulations, or whatever they need to do in order to facilitate those people who are not born in the country to become citizens eventually after going through the different processes. But there's no such stipulation in the Constitution as regards to born Belizean. If you're born there, like what would I say? But let me go a little further. This issue is being perceived the way it is being perceived now because you have some Belizeans who are in Belize, some who have traveled abroad and went back to Belize, and they want to have this idea that only if you live in Belize currently should you have the ability to be able to affect anything that has to do with Belize. That's a bogus position, because nowhere in the Constitution does it tell you that the government have the right to take away your Belizean citizenship or to deny you any services that you're entitled to as a born Belizean or constitutionally imbued authority to be a Belizean. As a matter of fact, your rights, or as a matter of fact, the rights of Belizeans should not be subordinate to the rights of other members of CARICOM or of the Commonwealth, who have the right themselves to come and vote in Belizean elections. If they can qualify as members of
Commonwealth.
members of the Commonwealth, thank you very much, sir, and their rights can be respected, why the devils can't all rights be respected all the same when we are born Belizeans? There are people who are not born in Belize who are given citizenship by the government through their own processes, and those people get not only to run in, they don't only get to vote in our elections, which by now they are outvoting us, they also get to run in our elections and become elected and are currently serving in the House of Representatives and other areas. It is a deliberate, by design travesty that those laws were made contrary to the original Constitution in terms of the rights that a Belizean is supposed to be able to exercise, and the government pretending to alter those laws to disenfranchise them. I'll go a little further and I'll say, when the Prime Minister himself, as we saw just now on that tape that you played, Mr. Chairman, stipulates that he is coming out here or is out here to see what his ministers are doing in regards to facilitating Belizeans that are out here. When they first got into office, they went to somewhere down in South America, I don't remember if it was Argentina or Peru, or one of those countries down there, and gave out thousands of passports to people down there. Some of those people never seen Belize or know anything about Belize other than the fact that they were being granted passports. Some of them were granted diplomatic passports under the hand of the same Mr. Courtney when he was Minister of Immigration and Minister of Foreign Affairs. As a lawyer, he should have known that he should not have done that. He should have followed the precepts and the prescripts of the Constitution. My daughter spent over a year trying to get her passport renewed, just basically renewed. And I had to go down there and kick some butts and have my daughter come down there in order for her to get her passport. That kind of crap shouldn't be happening. That's why we have embassies and consulate here in LA and other parts of the United States and other parts of the world to service us as Belizeans, born Belizean. My daughter is a born Belizean. She didn't deserve to be treated the way that she was treated. And for the employees them in the department there to not even know their constitutional authority vested in them to function in that department and to be overriding people's constitutional rights. That is part of the reason why the same knucklehead, the unelected one, Mr. Courtney, eventually had to be shipped out of that department because they were doing a whole lot of underhanded stuff, hustling. But anyhow, I don't want to get into that. That's personal. I just want to say that the prime minister should be taking his kudos for doing the job that he signed up to do. Okay, not to take any kudos to say, well, he's doing a favor to the people out here in America or any other part of the world. The government is supposed to facilitate Belizeans in whatever services that they need from their government. That's the purpose of a government. So while he's trying to take some kudos or want to be congratulated or want to use, to start with, okay, they talk about 73 different people that they gave nationalizations to. As I said earlier, they took cases and cases of passport down to South America. Literally over 1,000 different passports. You know how many passports fit in a box? Or how many boxes they took down there? And they boasted about it after they had done it. Just like how the Prime Minister get up in his own division there in Orange Walk Central when he was having his clinic and brought all the different government departments to go and facilitate people who did not born in the country, did not have any rights or should not have been accorded no privileges to be given all the things that he was giving to them that wasn't being given or facilitated for the local born Belizeans. And the man tell us right in our one face when we ask him for some of the Creole people to be on the Constitution Reform Commission when they were first making it. He look in our face and tell us, we are a minority. We don't need to worry. And then I look on some of the other people and tell them, well, they don't need passport because they're not going to go nowhere. What an idiot do we have for a prime minister? Even if he have those thoughts in his head, he shouldn't be verbalizing that and in public and on the airwaves at that. But that's the kind of daring, unconstitutional, scofflaws that we are dealing with. I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Brackett.
You're welcome, sir.
Mr. Morrison, I want to go back to you where I had left off.
Yes, sir.
So that you can finish.
Okay. Picking up on what Mr. Brackett was saying, what Mr. Leonard Brackett was saying, the Constitution does give us all those rights to citizenship, and it is the responsibility of a government, any government, to make sure that the needs of the citizens are taken care of. And it doesn't matter where they are, whether they're within the boundaries of the country of Belize or whether they reside in the diaspora. I could understand as a politician how they get drift and they sort of think that everything is related to the blue wave or the blue sky or the blue, but it is the responsibility and it is the government funds that's being used to sponsor all these trips and to pay for all these 14 people that are 22 people that came with the contingency and that is in a position to serve the citizens. And we're glad that they are doing this. We need to sometime recognize this because the other government, I don't remember doing anything like this. The UDP government, they came and they sucked the people for funds, and they came and they sucked the people for they sponsor plane loads when it was election time to go and vote in the former prime minister's division and the former prime minister's sister's division when things were at such a point. So at this point, I think the prime minister is pointing out, and I like to be fair, and I like to see things for what it is. At this point, the prime minister is taking a bow for for the effort of his government, and I'm not going to knock him for that. I do think it could be over exaggerated because, as Mr. Brackett duly pointed out, it is the resources of the country that's being used to make this option available to the citizens of the country.
Thank you, Mr. Morrison. I want to say this, and I want you gentlemen to give an input on it.
Uh,
The past government,
Mr. Chairman, before I change, there was a
I'm
point that
not
you.
changing the subject, Mr. Brackett.
Okay, because there's a point that I wanted to speak to. Well, not just speak to it, but just read it out of the Constitution as we had discussed just now, no? But anyhow, go ahead, sir. Sorry for
Yes,
interrupting.
I will give you that opportunity, but what I wanted to say is under the past government, the people from Belize, the Belizean people living in the diaspora, was not given the opportunity to vote in the referendum, which is a major question on Belize.
That is why they're in opposition right now, Mr. Chairman.
And now I can point blank say this. Under the present government, they will also be denied the right to vote on a referendum when it comes to the PCC Act. So now you want to include them by going over there
Sure, it's a
to
sham.
listen to what they have to say. You need their input on the constitution that you want to reform. But when it comes to the referendum, like the previous government, they will not be allowed to vote in it because then they have been barred by the Seventh Amendment. I go to you, Mr. Brackett.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And for those of you who just heard what I was saying earlier, I don't want to think that I'm just gratuitously stating stuff out of the top of my head because that's my belief and that's the way I would hope for it to be. I'm a constitutionalist. I believe in the constitution of my country and I uphold it as the vanguard of my country. I'll read from the Constitution of Belize. Persons born in Belize on or after Independence Day. Section 24 of the Constitution of Belize reads as follows. Every person born in Belize on or after the 21st day of September of 1981 shall become a citizen of Belize at the date of his birth. Okay? It didn't say if the Prime Minister wants to concede or accede or give him or grant him the rights or the privilege or authority to be a citizen and therefore to be able to enjoy all the perks that comes along with it. No, it says anybody that was born in Belize after the independence date is a citizen of Belize on the date of his birth. And prior to that, it says the same thing in reverse. That is, anybody that was born in Belize before the independence day is a Belizean. It doesn't say you have to apply for no Belizeanship or that you become a secondary class of citizen by virtue of, them not having granted you your citizenship or this or give you any privilege to become a Belizean. You earn that by virtue of, in fact, you're entitled to that by virtue of birth in the country of Belize. Even if you're a foreigner and you happen to be born in Belize, you're still a Belizean, or you have the right to claim that Belizean citizenship. It also tells you under Section 27 here, again, I'm going to, there's some other parts that I could have read, but I just want to go to Section 27 and read it and says, a citizen of Belize by birth or descent who acquires the citizenship of any other country may, if the laws of that other country so permit, and at his option, not the option of the Prime Minister or the Minister of Foreign Affairs or any other minister, or any other family members, friends, or relative, or strangers, or whatever. His option, the person's option, okay? That person may retain his citizenship of Belize, as well as acquiring the citizenship of the other country that permits it to happen. That is to say, the United States of America accept dual citizenship. So I don't want these jackasses back home there come to me and tell me no stupidness about they are not in violation of the Constitution when they go to the House and make bogus laws that are contrary and anti-constitutional and null and void. For them to tell me that I have to go through them in order to recover my Belizean citizenship or rights, and that I can't vote because they make a law to say, well, I can't vote if I wasn't there 30 days before or a year before or whatever. Right now, they're trying to make it be that you have to be there 5 years before you could even contemplate running for an office. It never used to be like that before. The new changes that they're trying to make in the Constitution will imply that you have to be 5 years in the country. Not being in the country and having left and go back and left and go back, you have to be there 5 consecutive years without leaving. That's the kind of honestness that these jackals are trying to play fast and loose with. But anyhow, are you back, Mr. Chairman? There's a lot more to be said about that.
Mr. Morrison, can I hear a rebuttal on that, sir?
Yeah, I hear what Mr. Brackett was saying, Mr. Leonard Brackett was saying, and I agree with him. The Constitution is quite explicit and clear in terms of what our rights and privileges are as citizens of Belize. That it's a birthright citizenship, and it's granted to anyone in the country, even if your family or parents who are not Belizeans or may have even been in status question. You are a Belizean if you're born there, and that the government in some ways, and not only this government but previous government, have seen to distort this in ways that denies us the right to exercise or right to participate in the national election process for the parliament is something that I don't know for sure that this has been taken to the courts, the high courts now that we have it, by anyone that would have disputed this requirement. But it is something that we need to do because I believe that those rights are inherent and they go, and there's nothing in the Constitution that forbodes any or negates any of those rights that we're born with as citizens of Belize. So that's a good point, Mr. Brackett.
A specific point, if you may allow me, Mr. Morrison, to speak to on
Yes.
what you're saying. The Constitution even goes as far as to say that the government is empowered to make rules and regulations in terms of granting nationality status and then subsequently citizen status to people who are non-Belizean. That power is granted to them. But it does not say anything about the Constitution granting the government any authority to decide who a born Belizean is and whether or not you as a born Belizean is entitled to your rights, or for the government to have to honor the obligation and the mandate of the Constitution to provide you those benefits of that right. They are two different things. And I think that what some of these guys do, they conflate those two things. That is the power to make laws, to grant nationality and citizenship, with the law that they're trying to claim that because they have that authority, they can deny as well, make laws to deny born Belizeans their right, which is what they attempted to do under the Representation of the People's Act, when they determined that if you're not in the country and living there in a certain division, you can't vote in that division of vote. You know, they make all these secondary bogus laws that that Section 2 of the Constitution says are null and void. And they know that. But there are a lot of them are lawyers, right? So they bamboozle the public. I yield back, sir. So thank you very much for allowing me the opportunity to clarify that point.
Sure. And so I do believe that the government have often, and it's not only this current government, but previous governments have abused their rights and the rights of Belizeans in the diaspora in the way they have exercised and denied the full citizenship participation of Belizeans that live outside of Belize for any extended period of time. I do know that there are registration requirements that you need to be in the country for a period of 3 months before an election to participate in that election. If you were not previously registered within a division or have moved out of that division. So
That's an unconstitutional act. Section 2 of the Constitution tells you that any other law that the legislator makes that is inconsistent with what the intent of the Constitution is, that is to afford you the right to vote in any other election as any other Belizeans and not to deprive you of your right based on any technicalities.
yeah,
They
I was
just
going to
closed up
get
the
to that.
case that the CCJ just now, just a couple of years ago, because of technicalities.
I was going to get to that,
No, I'm
Mr.
sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No, no, no. I was going to get to that. And the point that I'm saying is that often uh, people in Belize accept certain things that are spoken or may even be written that has not really meet the muster of constitutional rigor, in that it was never tested, and at times we need to make sure we test these laws as to their constitutionality. For example, the one you mentioned with registration. The other is the denial of participating in the election process by having dual citizenship. So these are all laws that are just waiting for someone to sort of be concerned about it and be willing to put it to test to make sure
But it
that
shouldn't, Mr. Morrison, it
that
shouldn't have to
the
fall on the
courts
shoulder of the citizen to fight the government over those issues, sir. It's unfortunate. It shouldn't have to be because not everybody have the time, the inclination,
and
the interest, which
be
is why they are getting
clear.
away. People are scared.
Yeah, and then it will then be clear as to where we are constitutionally, because so much is being played over and so much is being said and so much activities is going on that many times we don't know what the constitutional um, rightness of these actions. We know what it is and we know how the court should rule, but
Even, even that, even
we
that
have
is
not
being
challenged it.
contravened now.
We have not challenged it to make sure that it becomes quite crystal clear to the authorities where they're stepping over the line and where their boundaries are in terms of the denial of the civil and rights of individuals in the diaspora.
It's just malevolence and malignant, you know.
So with that, I turn back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Morrison. Tonight's topic is a great one, and it's an open discussion. And all this that is coming up is to let the people at home and abroad get a clear understanding of what is happening. Because right now, per the Prime Minister's word, we are doing redistricting, and they have claimed that they want to finish by the end of the year. But believe me,
They are doing gerrymandering, Mr. Chairman. They're not doing redistricting. They're gerrymandering under
Mr.
the guise of
Brackett, you don't have
redistricting.
to tell me that
No, I'm saying that
because I know
public
for a
public
fact
consumption.
that is not an assumption, sir.
No, I
And
say
that is
no,
not,
no. I'm saying that for public consumption.
public consumption.
Yeah,
But
you and I know what we're talking
that
about,
is
but
not an
we're trying to
assumption,
help
and I
the
will
regular
tell you
person.
why.
Uh-huh.
Per Mr. Henry Charles Usher,
Whatever.
Redistricting could not be done before you do a population check. So how will you know what it's happening? Make it make sense.
That's why I'm
I,
telling you, they are clunging. They are acting like
I go
clowns.
to you,
They're
Mr.
taking
Morrison.
chance.
Well, I do agree with this is one time I could agree with Mr. Henry Charles Usher is that we do need to do a census before we we do a proper redistricting. If we want the best benefit of the effort and the money that will be spent in doing a redistricting, then we should it should be led by first doing a new um, census to determine exactly what's going on. That would lay the groundwork of telling you what the population is, who's registered in those areas, what their residency is, and and give you a kind of finalized total on where things stand. And then from that we can build a proper redistricting. But we know they're not going to do that because they are planning on doing it by the end of the year. But if we remember in the last election, the prime minister said they were going to do it before they had another election, and they went ahead and pushed through that election in was it December or February? I can't remember.
March, March.
March.
It was
They
March,
pushed through
early
that
March.
election. Yeah, they pushed through that election in March without carrying out the mandated and the constitutionally required redistricting. So I can't really put it too much. They have lost my air of confidence that they will act
Don't hold your breath, Mr.
on
Morrison.
that.
Please.
That
I don't
exactly the point.
I
That's
don't want
exactly
people
the
to
point.
resurrect you. Don't hold your breath.
that's that's exactly my point, Mr. Brackett. So I'm all up in the winds as to how they'll do it and what they'll do it. But the truth is to
They have a
have
track record
the
already.
best, the best result for redistricting is to first have a census carried out and then move forward with that.
Can I make a statement on top of what you just said there just now?
Yes, sir.
Um,
Please.
okay, so every year, and I think in addition to the annual review that they do, I think they have either a quarterly or one, or at least every 6 months. It's either every 3 months or every 6 months that they do what you call re-registration and update or n- new registration, and they update the existing baseline. So every 3 months or every 6 months or every year as a minimum, okay, the Department of um, Election and Boundaries has an ongoing process by renewing and or getting new renewing existing registered people who want to move from one division to the next. That's an ongoing exercise, as well as registering new people that become of age that wants to vote in the next upcoming elections when they are due. Okay, that's an ongoing process. So they don't have to wait until what the census tells them, which is supposed to be at least as a minimum every 10 years, we're supposed to have a census. Sometimes they have not had it on time as well. But they don't have to now back into the idea of waiting until they create a census to determine how much people are qualified to vote, because that's an ongoing process, as I'm trying to bring to your attention. What they're doing now is trying to bamboozle the people by stipulating that because it would be a better thing to do to have, which is true, it would be a good thing to have a new census, and after the new census, then we'll have a more correct process if the census is done correctly. The bottom line is, even after you finish the census, there will always be new people that needs to be added on to your to your plebiscite that may not have gotten of age, that was short maybe by 2 or 3 months, and then those people become qualified before the next cutoff date. But it's an ongoing process. And when they're
Yeah.
telling the people that they want to do it after they have a census, it's because they know that a census is not due yet. And therefore, if they miss the deadline that they're setting for themselves to do it by the end of the month, the end of this year, then they go back into that and say, well, the census is due anytime, so we are wait until the census, and therefore they can go ahead and have the next election without having done. We are dealing with a bunch of scams and scoundrels, and unless we remember what their track record is, or unless we know what their track record is, and unless we are able to, anyhow, make I get into the
Let me just
let me
point
give it
out
up.
something
Let me give it up.
that I believe to be true, and it is that the constituency are break up not necessarily by people registered to vote, but by citizens that are within the jurisdiction of a division or
No,
constituency.
sir, no, sir. That
No,
that might
no,
be a
no,
good idea, but that's not
that,
that's not
no, that's
practice.
not true. That's not true. I believe that to be true because I looked at many different things. They do not set um, electoral boundaries based on registered voters. They set it based on population. Population is what governs the way the Constitution reads. It's not on
Sir, I
and
just
maybe you
described
could
to you just now how
maybe you could check that, Mr.
I just
Brackett, because
described to you just now that those numbers are changed every 3 months
the
and
numbers
sometimes every
change.
6
No,
months. I'm
you
telling you,
may, that's I understand that, and we all understand that
and
that
it's
the
an ongoing
process
process.
we all understand that that people die, people get of age,
Besides that,
people
people move out of divisions. I'll tell you something now
uh,
politically, right? No,
all
please,
those are
make us say this now.
true, Mr. Brackett.
This
All
might
those are
help.
true.
No, please, make us say this because it might help clarify what you're saying and what I'm saying and what the real facts should be or ought to be and what it is not. The bottom line is that us people, politicians, political strategists who work for the machinery of each party, right? What we do is we go through the list every
We
time when the
understand
list.
that. We
Wait,
understand that,
man, don't
Mr.
cut me off.
Brackett.
Every time when the list is updated, we go through the list and we try to figure out how much people they had on their side that's possible to vote for them, how much we have. Did we increase ours? Did they increase theirs? And how we can go and bring in people from other divisions into our divisions and re-register. That's part of the ongoing process. It's a tactical, strategic, and basically it's a scam because we're actually scamming the system when we do that.
See
That's
that
historically how we have done it,
that's
and we
not the
keep
way the
doing it.
system is supposed to work, and that's not what I'm
That's why I'm
encouraging or
trying to explain to
discussing.
you that you
No, I
know
understand that. I understand that how they move people
we could,
from one division
we
to
could
the
get
other
we could get a
division.
perfect redivisioning right now. And by the time the election is to be held, there's 2 or 3 different registration cycles that alter all those numbers again. And because, like I said, people move big groups of people out
But
of their divisions
that's
into
Mr.
because
divisions where
they
they need
Brackett,
don't
the help.
if
that's
I
because they
can,
don't follow the law in registering people for a division. When you have one house that could have 40 registered people that does not live at that house, that's the failure
but Mr.
of
Morrison,
It's not
boundaries,
supposed.
election and boundaries
We are
to
agreeing that it's not supposed to be like that, but that's how these idiots run the system.
but Mr.
It's
Brackett and
scam. They're
Mr.
a bunch of scam.
Morrison, that Johnny come lately.
Mhm.
As we are saying, as I was saying, in order to do redistricting, you must do a census. Because if
Yes,
you
I
don't do
agree.
that, here is what will happen.
I agree.
Belize just had amnesty and the government will still win through that. There will be a lot of illegal people voting from the amnesty. And you know Belize took in quite a bit from South America. So we can just go with that. Gentlemen and people at home and abroad, we are at that time. So with that
The
said,
thing just to get nice, man. Mr. Chairman, the thing just to get nice. No, seriously, the public needs to know and understand these things because they know a lot of people just go on and take their beer and then take their leave plate of food and then take their leave money, and that's all it is for them for election. And that's why we're taking advantage by these guys so much because there's a whole different system other than what is supposed to be that these people practice. But I yield back. Sorry about interrupting
Thanks,
again.
Mr. Brackett. It's not also the people from Amnesty.
Uh-huh.
They also have the people from CARICOM that can move around freely, get social, get everything bank account. So I don't see redistricting happening. I think
It's all a
the
scam.
CCJ ruling is not moot. We will be right back there over that issue.
And all they will do, they'll keep stalling and playing out the process and time and keep running by. And the next election will come and they will have it because we don't have nothing new or different to have it on or by.
Well, you know, no,
That's the kind
no,
of people we're dealing with.
none of the political parties are really in tune
Yeah.
and willing to do it because it would mean them losing what they have considered safe seats for them over the years. So
Mr.
that challenges all the political parties to get involved in this. They're
And,
not willing to do it.
and
Belize
Mr.
district,
Oh,
let
sorry.
me finish.
Yes, sir.
Belize district would lose at least about 3 or 4
Two. Two.
constituencies.
Two.
They, let me use my number. You can use your number.
Okay. Sorry. Sorry. No,
Belize district will lose at least 2 or 3 constituencies if they were to carry out a proper redistricting exercise. And so that is a concern for many of the pushers. And I remember a long time ago, the former and first prime minister, George Price, had justified it because of the economic capital, he called it. He said we were the economic capital of the country, and therefore there was a higher um,
which was true, sir. That was
difference,
very, very true.
difference.
Because the district didn't have the amount of population that they have right now.
Belize district is still the most
Yes, but
capital
I'm
intensive
saying
contributor.
the whole country doesn't have the amount of new migrants into the country and into those particular
That
divisions.
has nothing to do with the preference that he gave it and the deference he gave it as being the economic capital and giving them that advantage of a greater number of constituents that was
Because they were more
undeveloped.
concentrated, Mr. Morrison. Belize City was more
That,
concentrated population wise. And the old
that
districts then we had a lot of big
that
farms
does
and a
not
lot of personal
change. That
farms.
does not change, Mr. Brackett. I
Sir,
agree with what you're
and
saying. But
no,
I'm
but
saying that does not
sorry,
change
sorry.
what the prime minister at the time said, that he gave the deference to Belize City or Belize District because it had the economic capital of the country. Talking about population and dispersion in population and growth in population has nothing to do with that change of deference that the prime minister George Price had spoken about. That's what I'm saying. That
Mr.
deference.
Morrison, I want
Yes,
to
sir.
say this to both of you gentlemen and people at home and abroad. We're here talking about redistricting, and just recently, based on the CCJ ruling, I want to go to the chase because the conversation is getting good. I want to play these two tapes to show you what you just said, Mr. Morrison,
Yes,
that
sir.
it will not be a good redistricting. Let's hear what the Prime Minister said
No,
first.
gerrymander, that's all they're doing right now.
The CCJ ruling on the Jeremy Enriquez case in terms of the redistricting, is it a mute point because the government is already planning to proceed with that?
Well, I have not seen the report, but I think it's at this point. You're right. It's moot because we are already working on the redistricting, and I'm still pushing. I should have a meeting with Minister Musa on Monday to get an update as to how is it going, so that we can ensure that we can keep our timeline. That we hope that can be in place by the end of this year.
The Court of Appeal struck.
Oh, gentlemen, you heard what the Prime Minister said, right?
And he will miss that timeline. He will miss that deadline.
Right.
Because
No, that's not is what will happen. Based on what Mr. Morrison said, I want you to listen to this keenly because there's no intention to do a good redistricting. Because you heard what the Prime Minister said. He will speak to Mr. Musa on Monday, but listen to what he said.
The ongoing redivision of electoral boundaries remains one of the most important undertakings at this time. This exercise reviews and updates constituency boundaries to reflect changes in population and settlement patterns across the country. It involves data analysis, mapping and consultation to ensure that electoral divisions are properly structured and administratively sound. This work continues with careful attention as it directly shapes how representation is organized across Belize. In preparation for the 2027 March municipal elections, the department continues to coordinate and deliver the systems required for a smooth and credible process. Each phase of election readiness receives focused attention to ensure that Belizeans participate in an environment that is orderly, transparent, and accessible. Mr. Speaker, this renewed mandate has now been issued by the Prime Minister, and the Election and Boundaries Commission is committed to completing this exercise of the 31 divisions by the end of this year.
How will you do the redistricting and still have 31 divisions?
But where's the census? These guys are just
Mr.
playing us for a
Morrison,
bunch of fools.
your answer? Let me hear you on that.
You could have the 31. You could have the 31. You just have to shuffle. Well, that's one of the decisions they have to make. Have the population grown in such a manner that we need to increase the number of constituency? That's one question that must be answered. The second, let me finish, Mr. Brackett.
Go ahead, please.
The second question that must be answered, are we going to, how are they distributed? Because we have to remember there's a cost issue. When we start increasing divisions, we start increasing costs in our governance. So we have to be mindful of that. So then the next question that must be answered is how are we going to share up those available votes, citizens? Because I know Mr. Brackett like to say voters, but I don't go from voters. I go from population. So how are we going to share up those populations most evenly within those constituents? That's the next question that needs to be answered. And once that is done, then redistricting becomes just a drawing of a map, you know. But I always believe that you get the best redistricting after you have had valid and current census information, because then that tells you what the total population is exactly to the closest of that estimation and of that data, where they're residing. And that allows you to make the easiest and most efficient decisions about how to make that, draw those lines, those boundary lines of the constituencies.
Can I make one statement?
Yes, sir.
Voting in Belize under our system of governance is a voluntary exercise. It is not a mandated criteria that the government can impose any kind of penalty on anybody that refuses to register or refuses to take part in the electioneering process. It's a voluntary process to start with, first and foremost, okay? Let's get that clear. Secondly, if someone were to take the approach that you had verbalized quite a few times, not only just in this presentation tonight, but before, as regards to it should be on the population that they should do the redistricting, it doesn't mean that because if they were to do it like that, that those people that are aggregated into any particular division will end up becoming registered. What we are looking at as a plebiscite are the people who are on the registration log qualified to vote. That's a,
Mr. Brackett, play Mr. Musa's tape again, and he'll tell you that they
Mr.
need to
Musa will
do
talk
a
on good talk and
population that
bamboozle.
it is based, that it is that
Mr. Musa
redistricting
need
is
to talk to me, Mr. Morrison.
no,
He need to
because
talk for an expert in any kind of thing. He need to talk to the average Belizeans. We don't know where to tell them and where it sound good because they make a
no,
nice
but he's talking.
presentation.
He's
That's the man's objective.
in this instance he's speaking the facts and the law. He's speaking that
I give up.
the
I give up.
redistricting exercise is based on the census and it's based on a population distribution. Population.
Come back next March when the election is being held, and they'll tell you that they cannot block the election from being held because that's the deadline or the date when it's supposed to be held, and they go ahead and have it. Come back then and tell me what has been the experience between now that we are having this discussion and my trying to explain certain things that are relevant for people to understand what the real significance is and how to pressure these people for them to comply and meet their responsibility as officers of our government. Okay?
And I'm not saying they're not going to play.
Come back next March and we have this same discussion over again. Unless, but anyhow, I yield. Time has expired. And I need for you and Mr. Chairman to have the last year. That's my last year.
I want to say this. The good Mr. Musa is speaking pertaining to the law. But it is my strong belief this is a two-gun bluff. So that when they go back to court, the court will not want to speak on it or answer to it. They will claim the government again is doing the redistricting. That is what is happening.
Well, they'll claim the government is doing a census, but
Correct.
I'm not excusing. I'm not excusing the opportunist characteristic and behavior of the politicians we have. That's not what I'm excusing. I'm not trying to excuse that. I'm saying that the redistricting ought to be based on population. It ought to be based on that
population of voluntary people who wants to register. They have to be registered.
No, even if you don't want to register, it is based on the number of citizens within a certain.
Your voters list is based on those who register, so it's not based on those who live
I'm not talking about voters list. No, don't conflate it. I'm not talking about voters list.
I'm explaining to you what the.
No, I know what the voters list is based on. It's based on people that volunteers.
I agree with you, Mr. Morrison. You know why? Because just from listening to what Mr. Musa said, I can tell they don't want to lose their stronghold. Because that is what will happen.
Yes.
For judge will go.
They have the authority and the power to gerrymander. They shouldn't be fearful of getting this thing done because they are the one in the driver's seat and they can drive this thing to their own heart content. So our effort or the effort of those of us who are trying to get them to comply with the Constitution should be looked at as like a waste of time because at the end of the day, if it is ever gotten done, they are the ones that's going to do it, and they have the machinery in the election and boundaries department to have it work out the way they want it to work out. At the end of the day, that's the end of the story. All we are trying to do is to get them to comply with the Constitution.
The election and boundaries has a majority of government officials, but it is made up of the opposition, and I believe it is also made up of some independent individuals.
No, sir. That's not it.
Okay, I think it has 7 members, and 4 are the government, and 3 is the opposition. I thought it had an independent member, but I'm not sure right
There's
now.
no independent, nothing there.
Okay. Well, the government has a one seat majority over the.
They have the chairmanship. The government have the chairmanship, and they have the majority of the people. Their will carries. The opposition is only there as basically observers. They can't carry the day. There has never been and will never be a situation where they will be able to carry the day unless they have
I understand that.
if they have some independent people as part of the process. But it's not.
I said specifically the government had the majority,
Yeah.
and I believe there was some independent. But I'll go back and look and see how the election and boundaries is made up,
And then
how it's constructed.
the department itself, underneath the executive structure, you have the leader of the department, which is Ms. Tamai, and her staff. They all work. They are supposed to be working in that department under the influence of the Election and Boundaries Commission, and that commission is supposed to be under the authority and power and control of the Governor General. But that's not how it works, because the people that are on the board who are appointed by the politicians then carry favor for the politicians then, and they haul and pull the system to serve the politicians then, and the government in power, who have most of the control, gets its will done. The hell with whatever
No,
else the other
I'm
people
not
want.
arguing that. I have no. I'm not.
No, I'm not
That's
saying
not
that
the
you're arguing.
argument.
I'm just trying to, I'm just trying to verbalize.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah. No. Thanks for that clarification and explanation. But that's not my position that the government does not get its will through the election and boundaries. Of course, we know through every single organization and every instrument and every statutory board that's there, the government has a majority and prevails.
The chairman of the board, for Election and Boundaries Commission, right? He can have laws written up and passed there to sanction members of the commission itself, such as the not the commission, the board itself, such as the Ms. Tamai. She could lose the job. She can be fired forthwith. Okay, when in fact it ought not to be. But the way the thing is structured and how they operate it is that she is boss of those other people, and everybody takes marching orders from her, and she takes marching orders from the chairman.
There's nothing wrong with that. You need a leader and you need somebody
Yes, but
responsible.
I'm saying to you, as a wider point of contention, the gerrymandering, because that's a secondary and a derogatory term for the same process of reapportionment, right? The reapportionment is expected to be done without any fear or favor. That's why you have both people on the commission. At least they can look out and see what's going on behind or underneath the hood. But the bottom line is that whatever that commission recommends, or whatever the Ms. Tamai and her employees they bring up, and is being recommended to the House for them to vote on, then becomes the law. The fact that the UDP or any opposition have any members in there, they are sitting down. They're just there as what you call observers.
Well, they have a constitutional responsibility. I don't push aside.
No.
I don't push aside.
They should. But they're not allowed. It's not allowed.
And you talk about gerrymandering. That happens on both sides, and not only that.
Only when a different party is in, then it happens for the other party. But once
it
one
happens
party
on
is
both
in,
sides.
that's the party that.
But,
No. You only
No,
have.
but what?
Okay.
Just a moment, Mr. Brackett, Mr. Gregory Brackett.
I want to say, in good thoughts, right? What we are speaking here tonight about, as I always say, here in Belizean affair we show and tell.
Mm-hmm.
But we might be way behind according to Julius. He might know something that we don't know. Because how can he say to
Julius
Mark
or
to me, Mark, you
Mr.
will
Chairman,
be a one-term senator?
What,
How
okay,
does he know that?
Yeah.
So he
Gerrymandering
must
is
know
not
something we don't know.
is not a new science. It's not a
Well,
new effort or a new technique.
Jerry was born a long time ago, and so they've been mandering. But the what I wanted to say regarding that, I don't know if anyone have ever tested a boundary that was drawn and took it to the court to see if how the court would rule if
Nobody
there
has
is some issue.
the Constitution itself speaks to that point, and it says that nobody outside of that election and boundaries department has any authority. That are the part of the reason why the judge the last time.
Well, then we need to change that law. we need to reform that constitutional
They don't want to reform that.
call
They
there.
don't, that I want. They don't
No,
want to
I said
reform.
look. Then we need to reform that. I don't
It
know
needs
that
to
the
be because
Constitution says that, but if
it
you
says they are supposed to work independently, but
Yeah.
that is not happening. And to get whatever is needed from the Prime Minister, executive power is ruling, so it cannot be worked independently. But gentlemen, we are at that time. Mr. Brackett,
okay,
I
Just
go to
remember.
you for 2 minutes.
Yes, sir. Okay. The Governor General of Belize is the entity that is largely responsible for making sure that anything that has to do with the election of officers is carried out according to the rules, regulations, and or the Constitution itself. And if any rules or regulations or whatever contravenes the Constitution, it is the Governor General's purview or responsibility to see to it that the right thing is being done. But while that may be true constitutionally and technically, that is not the way how it operates. Because the Prime Minister gets his way done by appointing the 3 members on his side and the chairman. And they're supposed to be working without any fear or favor under the guise of the Governor General. That's why when you want a referendum, you take your stuff then to the Governor General's office. Then the Governor General issue the writ of referendum or of election or whatever, which overrides anything that the Prime Minister or anybody else can, they don't have no jurisdiction there. She can override anything that they propose or whatever. But normally they don't. But the bottom line is that everything that's done through that department is done from a political perspective when it's not to be done like that. It's not set up to be done like that. Well, I shouldn't say it like that. That's not correct either. Because at the end of the day, they get their way.
Thank you, Mr. Brackett. Mr. Morrison, I go to you for your comment, sir. And immediately following that, you can do the closing.
okay, thank you. I agree with what you said that the government exercise that tremendous power and control over those statutory bodies, such as boundaries, election and boundaries, and they do it over many other bodies, and that's why I often say we need to create a more independent sort of way of
We just need
appointing
honest people, sir.
appointing these individuals, whether
Just
it is
honest people,
board,
man.
whether it's the board at the BTL, whether it's the board at the airport authority. We need to make sure that we and or at the election and boundaries. We need to make sure that these people are first accountable and responsible and people that are people of goodwill that has the best interest of the country at heart first above politics. And definitely when you get to election and boundary, that's the very cream of politics. So I see I see it hard slipping away from that. But I think we should all, as citizens and as people that has the best interests of the country, work in a way to sort of make sure that our system is as fair as possible because we want to leave a legacy. We need to dream bigger than just one party state because one party we have seen never have all of the answers and that over time when they feel so entrenched they sway and it upsets all of us and it's upset our entire system when we allow this to happen. So giving as open and as independent a stare on these sort of statutory bodies will in fact ensure that our democracy functions the way we intend it to and the way it should, that it provides the greatest amount of benefit to all of our citizens. And so with that, I thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And thank you, Mr. Brackett.
You're welcome, sir. Thank you too for gracing us once more with your presence, and your contribution is highly regarded and accept. You
Thank you,
help our
sir.
show to be a little better than it would have been without your presence. So on that basis,
Good.
I can,
I want
without
to
any
say,
more ado, say
I
thanks.
want to say thank you, gentlemen, for sitting with me virtually on this 419th episode of the Belizean Affair. Tonight's conversation was one well worth it, and I would love to bring this back again so the people at home and abroad can get some educated courses from this. With that said, gentlemen, I want to say good night to you people at home and abroad.
Nice
Mr.
program, Mr.
Morrison,
Chairman. Nice program, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Morrison, is there a comment you wanted to say?
I just want to say thank you, and I always appreciate joining you guys because you bring out all these necessary points and conversation that we need to have, and I'm sure it invigorates and it stimulates and it encourages our democracy. And what we do here is to point things out so that not us on our own, but that we are informing the public and the people so that they have the
50%.
knowledge so that they can question and hold their government accountable.
Thank you, sir. With that said, I want to say good night.